It's open bar, and it is time to talk about the 21 convention. For those who don't know, the 21 convention was the very first time that there was I guess on a massive scale, men's self development, red pill, manosphere, PUA, like really all this type of stuff happened in person. And the 21 convention, or 21 con, as they had called it for a long time, it kind of died. But even though it died, there is a lot to learn from the very beginning. And that's what we're going to talk about right now, the positivity and how it changed the way we looked at the manosphere and this self-development space. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Strong and wild, we rise up high. Conquer fears, won't let them reside. Heartbeats pound as we take the dive. Living now feels so alive. Heart steel veins glowing bright. Fitness gone in the dead of night. Fading game, we got the sight. Crushing finance, career out of sight. Man up now, we own it true. Breaking chains, just me and you. Success stories everywhere. Living life beyond compare.
Oh boy, I love this topic. The 21 convention is it goes down in history, but is to soon be forgotten. That's just the truth. Anthony, and as he calls himself, the Dream Johnson, had put together a convention down in, I believe it was Orlando, Florida. And every year, bring people together, different speakers. A lot of people you may know from this space had the likes of Rich Cooper, had the likes of Donovan Sharp, had the likes of Rollo Tomasi. And for years, it was just getting better and better and better. And what's interesting about the whole thing is that when I got more involved in this space was exactly the time that it all came tumbling down. Not only with the 21 convention, they also had a podcast group called the Red Man Group. Now, every single Saturday, this is dating back to like 2017, I guess. Man, time flies. Back in 2017, I used to watch each and every single Saturday. I loved it. It was like my favorite Saturday afternoon activity. Man, I just have so many great memories from so many great shows. They called that podcast the Red Man Group. Now, with what happened with 21 convention, which we will get into in part 2 of this is only part 1. We're going to talk about the early days. We're going to talk about the positive. With the falling out, Red Man Group became Rule Zero, which is a completely separate entity that was run by Rollo. And then everything shattered, everything splintered. I had explained it to Josh, or at least used the analogy, that it was kind of like Thanos, where he snapped his fingers, and once he snapped his fingers, everything changed. But then even when we came back together and we healed this like time dimensional universe type of thing, it never got back to where it once was. But without further ado, I want to bring up my two good pals here. We've got Kevin and Josh. How we doing, guys? Did you say something, or did I press something? Am I not hearing my audio?
Oh wait, no, I think we're on auto mute there, but
Okay, cool.
Now we're back. But yeah, I just said glad to be here. When it comes to bad days, there's no such thing for me anymore. Bad things might happen, but it doesn't make me a bad day.
Like it. How about you, Josh? How are things going? I know you're busy. You're busy as all hell right now, huh?
Sure, yeah, very pretty much so. It's been a marathon day, but been been keeping productive, so that's a good thing. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Good stuff. So I gave kind of the tidbits, the information, at least to kind of begin this. Um, yeah, Anthony the Dream Johnson. So self-proclaimed the Dream, self-proclaimed president of the Manosphere. Um, very interesting stuff that went on. I know when you look back on his story and the entire purpose of why he did it, why he created this, is because he was seeking that information and couldn't easily, like, it wasn't easily accessible for him. So he started this conference, and the conference, which kind of was just like something he did, I think when he turned 18 as like a project, like I guess the senior year of his high school or something, um, just as like a project to try something out, ended up growing into it completely changed everything that we know today. I don't know if you guys want to speak on your history with understanding it. I've never been to a 21 convention myself, but I am very familiar with like how these conventions work and like kind of the history of everything that's going on. But let's start with you, Kevin. Let's hear a little bit of your understanding of this whole thing and why you think any of this may be important. Let's keep it positive tonight.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm still in the same boat. I didn't unplug until around 2019, and I use that term loosely. It's when I found red pill ideology when it was still at its finest, in my opinion, and didn't know anything about 21 Con until it was actually starting on the downslope. But I did see a lot of clips and a lot of the speakers over the years. And when I say over the years, the people that don't know, this started back in 2006. It didn't really gain traction until I would say 2017 or maybe 2015, when it started really gaining traction in the space. And that's when the big names of the space at the time were a part of this. Rich Cooper, Rollo Tomasi, Donovan Sharp, there are a lot of good speakers. And then even up to the end, where they had Dr. Glover, the author of No More Mr. Nice Guy, which I have listened to 3 times and read once. Great book. I recommend it. It really started out and was intended to be a positivity for males trying to get back to gender role of a male. And it helped a lot of men. However, it didn't evolve with the space like we are at Men of Now. And it kind of got stuck in a rut. And there were some things that happened that, unfortunately, it's not what it used to be.
It's a good point, Josh. I want to come to you because I know you've been in the space for a while. You know some of the speakers. I shared with you guys when we had talked about it, the interview type thing that Rollo did with Christian McQueen and Goldman. It's just wild how this connected so many people. But what's your understanding of everything and kind of where do you sit?
Well, I mean, it's the early days of it, especially at like 2000, that first really big one, that the first time like Rollo was there talking, but it's also like, Rollo, Ed Lattimore, Christian McQueen, Rich Cooper, a lot of, big prominent names in the space. It was kind of that sort of sweet golden moment where like the theme was unity. Like everyone came together, everyone was there exchanging ideas, everyone was there giving, their unique perspective and expertise on a lot of different things. You had guys talking about family relationships, you had guys talking about parenting, what that meant, you had guys talking about, improving your dating life, you had guys talking about like improving your finances or your lifestyle. So it really was that golden sweet moment in history where everyone just kind of put the egos aside. They kind of put their weapons, checked them at the table, and everyone just kind of came together and really embraced the idea of like, hey, we're all on the same team. We all want to see a lot of different guys win, and we all can help each other figure out the best way that we individually can win, as a group. So that way we can, go out and make the world a genuinely better place. And that's really what the core kind of unifying idea behind it was that, hey, for us as guys, we got to get better so that way we can make the world a better place, right? And so a lot of times it gets conflated or convoluted with the idea that it's just about like, guys going to hype each other up to say that they're better than everybody else or we're better than this. It really wasn't about that at all. It was really about, hey, how can we all come together to help each other all improve in different areas of our life? So that way we can then in turn go out and live better, more productive lives, but also like go and contribute and, just have a better world overall. And that was a really, really cool thing that I really, really miss about that very first big 21 convention that they did.
I want to share where it's kind of gone. I don't know if this has all past speakers, but at the very least, to give you guys an idea of who some of the different people, at least as of late, that have spoken, in case anybody, recognize somebody. So we have the Dream himself. He's also the president of the Manosphere. I don't know if you guys knew that. He is the president. So that was an interesting little thing. Now I'm going to give Anthony a lot of shit on this. I'm not going to lie. Anthony, we've never spoken before. If you ever were to hear this, but just the way that things were handled, maybe it was just too early. But that's a whole different thing. Nothing bad to say about you. It's just the way that it settled down was a little interesting. So then Michael Foster, Richard Grannon, Jack Donovan, Ian Smith, Coach Greg Adams, very large in the space, Jay Vincent, Robert Glover, as you were saying, Kevin, no more Mr. Nice Guy. We had Alexander Cortez, Socrates, Steve the Dean Williams. I don't know who this guy is, but Arthur Quan Lee, Elliot Hulse. That's a big name. A lot of people know him. Tanner Guzzi, great fashion guy, great family man. Jeff Younger, Ken Curry, Eric Carroll. I don't know who some of these other people are, because he did actually do kind of what we've talked about is men of now. Like, why isn't there a women of now? Like, we should be breaching out and like bringing the sexes together and have everybody win. That's what it's all about. But I just wanted to share that from previously what they had last year when they had the convention. But through the years, as we said, Rolo, Ed Lattimore, Donovan Sharp, Goldman, Christian McQueen, the Zach Small, Phil Foster, like the list goes on and on. This was really the unifying convention, like the unifying event for the space. And we didn't have a unifying event before, but yet this was a time where you could go away for a weekend and boom, you could see all of your favorite people in person and then also be around like-minded individuals so that you can all learn and grow together. It really was. It was amazing. I mean, the entire idea behind it was amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say that Anthony Johnson, he was a visionary and he did try to do something well. And he did something well for many years with the convention. Because if you look back to the early days, 2006, 2007, we all remember those times, right? We've covered it in this series. That was when PUA, pickup artists, that started hitting the scene. So if you look up from some of those clips from some of those first conventions, I mean, that's what it was. And he was able to evolve it past that to 2000. Josh, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 2016 was the one that really blew up. And Johnson even admits it because that's when he had Cooper and Tomasi there. And he rightly admits that they sold the most tickets because of their popularity at the time.
Yeah, I mean, credit where credit's due. It was, the convention had been around for a while and was fairly niche. But then once the, kind of pairing of the dream team, right, where, Anthony Johnson meets this guy who's, been making a name for himself, Rollo Tomasi, then suddenly the pairing of that, I mean, Rollo's audience alone really, really boosted the profile. So, to kind of go back to your Avengers example, it was like everybody had been watching their sort of like kind of favorite hero movies for a while. And then suddenly there's this one big team up where it's like, all right, cool. Everyone's been following for a while individually. Now they're all really, really coming together. So, that was a cool thing where, again, like both of them, or I guess like kind of like a lot of people involved, especially, Anthony Johnson and Rollo Tomasi, like both of them really benefited from what each other brought to the table and being able to really raise their profiles collectively. So, it was definitely worked out really, really well, especially that first really big one. That was extremely mutually beneficial for pretty much everyone involved. So it was, like I said, it was a rare moment in time that I kind of missed, because again, at the time, the sentiment was like, everyone's just there, and it's really all about the ideas and how we can take these ideas to make the world a really a better place.
Absolutely. And as I said to you earlier, it really is how I continue to live my life. If I'm like, when it comes to everybody making money together, like I'm not eating at the table if my friends aren't there with me. And that's what got lost here, is that we finally came together, but then a lot of egos got involved and shattered the space. But let's go back to the very, very, very beginning. I think you got a clip, right, Kevin?
Yeah. This is from 2008. And we all know that you even see the sponsor here, PUAtraining.com. But if you see the type of forum it was.
As a geek, raise your hand. A geek. There's only a few of you. Let me give you some definitions. Do you guys know the difference between a nerd, a geek, and a dweeb? All right, I'll give you one. I checked it out.
But
it's all like in a cheap hotel lobby, huh?
It was. And, if you see, it's very vanilla, and those are, pickup artist guys. That's what was big at the time. That's before Mystery had his show on VH1. That's before Mystery Method came out. It's well before Project Hollywood. But that was what was big at the time. And what was great about it is Anthony capitalized on that. He saw that that's what was resonating with men. And so he tried to put a convention together using the guys that were in the spotlight at the time. And he did evolve with it. And we'll watch some more clips later on of how you see it grew. And not only the speakers were on another level, the members were on another level as well.
Right. Yeah. I feel like in the very beginning days when it was, because I had shared with you, because I remember, I don't remember the exact time that he spoke on this. It may have been back in those days of Redman Group, but when he had spoken on it, he had said that starting this out very early, 17, 18 years old, 19, whatever it was, he wanted the information, but he didn't know how to get it. And this seemed like an easier way to get the information than trying to hunt for it. I thought that was a really cool perspective to have, because think about that. If you put together a way to streamline everybody else's business, which is what he's essentially doing, and then also you're getting the information essentially for free, dude, that is like multiple birds with one stone. Because I know that like a lot of the different people that they have, I'm going to give a huge shout out to Phil Foster right now. Phil Foster, absolutely stand-up guy. He teaches a lot over at Phil Foster's Fitness. He's got a supplement brand, everything, all types of different workout routines. Really has helped, and I've noticed him help a lot of different guys, especially older guys that are trying to improve that aspect of their life. And then you also have Zach Small, one of his good friends, good friend of mine as well. Zach is fantastic. The Family Alpha. Think about that. The Family Alpha. What does he focus on? He focuses on building a good solid foundation as a father for a family. Like, what better information could you want than that? So it really is, it really was fantastic what he was doing as he was developing it. I mean, it all started out because, I mean, hell, we just want to get laid as guys when we're at that age. But then it developed into something deeper. And I think that as it continued to grow, I don't even know exactly what happened. I mean, I know what happened, but I don't know if it was egos that got involved or whatnot, and that's for the next show. But it really was, it really was cool because before this, you had everybody who would just keyboard warriors. They were just on the forums talking back and forth. I mean, hell, that's what Rollo did for the longest time. I believe that Rollo even published, yeah, Rollo published The Rational Male before even putting himself out there.
Yeah, this was the first time a lot of people could meet everyone live in person in one place, but also what a lot of people got for the very first time was a lot of cross collaboration leading up to that big conference. So now it's like the first time where you've had, you know, people kind of in their big content creators, right, in their isolated silos and their different buckets. Now they're starting to do a little bit of cross promotion with each other and starting to do like cross content. So that was sparking some really, you know, interesting and exciting conversations and some just really, really great topics that gave a lot of people a lot of great information. So that's the big thing to really, you know, kind of take away from this. And we'll kind of cover more in part two of, you know, where we're at the height in the unity and then how everything got fractured and fragmented, you know, right after, or I would say like the following year. But, you know, all the leading and the build up to it, it was a really cool time because, again, you had a lot of people that, you know, had never had like direct, you know, conversations with each other before, now suddenly are collaborating on, you know, joint posts or, you know, podcast episodes. And then this is all building to this big thing where, you know, again, everyone's going to be live and talking about their particular area of expertise. And so it was a really, really cool, really, really exciting thing. And it was a pretty exciting time.
That's good stuff, dude. You're just making me like think back to it because it really was like the Renaissance period. Like, let's be honest. Like, I would love to go back there. I have some very, very distinct memories of just enjoying some of the shows on specific days. Because it was when you think about all of your favorite, let's say you got a whole bunch of favorite TV shows, and then they do a crossover. That's what this was. This was the first time you had a crossover, except it wasn't a crossover between your two favorite TV shows. It was a crossover between all of your favorite TV shows. It was almost overwhelming at first with how awesome the entire idea and like what you were getting out of it was, especially because Anthony, and this was a very smart business move on his end, they would record the speeches and then you could purchase a membership or some of them were released for free. If you guys do want to go take a look, I would really, if anything, I would start at Medusa, and that's his personal story of marrying an escort. That's a whole interesting story we'll probably get into in part two. But you can get a lot of the information for free. I mean, hell, that's literally because the 21 convention existed is how I met Alan Roger Curry. God bless his soul. But I wouldn't have even known he existed. I wouldn't have resonated with him because I didn't know he existed. And I got to interview the man. And it was so much fun talking to the guy. There's so much that I learned because it opened a gateway. It opened a pathway to so many different avenues that maybe you didn't know that you needed to work on. But it didn't matter. Whenever you came across it, you had an expert in whatever specific thing you were trying to figure out. I loved it. So I think, Kevin, don't you have another one here, another clip for us as we kind of move forward in the progression of the conference?
Well, yeah, and this, you know, the next speaker I'm going to show is fast forward to, I believe, 2016, and Rich Cooper is a guy that I really respect. He played a big role. If it wasn't for Rich Cooper, I wouldn't know Josh right now because of the 10%. And that's how I met Josh. You know, Josh was a big influence on me, along with our other good friend, Jaron Scott. And never met Rich Cooper in real life, but I've talked to him before. And he was a big influence on me seeing the light, so to speak, not just unplugging and swallowing the red pill, but seeing the light as a man. And I believe that this clip was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, was
Last and
his
final lesson
second
is
appearance.
accepting female nature. And I had a very hard time in my plugged in years doing this. Very Disneyland, prince, princess, egalitarian, you know, hold hands, sing kumbaya, get married, say I do until kingdom come, and blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't really work out like that in the real world. When you take the red pill, you start to recognize that a lot of the shit they've been feeding you through school, religion, parenting, society, socioeconomics, politics, a lot.
So having speakers like we saw in the first clip from 2006, a PUA guy that never, to fast forwarding, you know, 10 years to having guys like Rich Cooper, who is still very big in the space, the man of swamp, as he calls it. But from Rich Cooper's content that I saw, it kind of evolved. I started with Alpha M, with Algorithm, shot me David De Los Morenos from How to Beast. Then I found Rich Cooper and his content, and I really liked it. He does give sound advice. He does care about men's well-being, I feel. Now, of course, we did have our falling out, but no hard feelings. I still have a lot of respect for Rich Cooper. And like I said before, I wouldn't know Josh. I wouldn't know Jaron. I wouldn't know several people. And even though we're not,
You wouldn't know me.
yeah, wouldn't know you. This would have never came
because
about.
if Rich didn't exist, I wouldn't have found him from the 21 convention. Now, I've never attended one, but that was my introduction of the connectivity, and that's what kind of led me down this rabbit hole. And yeah, you wouldn't. It's so weird. All three of us wouldn't have met each other.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of his talks again, I think it was like 25 things your dad never told you. Like, it's still to this day like one of the best things that you could possibly hear as a young guy coming up in the world. So it's some really good content. And then of course this was the timing that Rich and Rollo were meeting in person and paired up, and other big content creators and other big names in the space. Because again, a lot of guys had a lot of different takes for flavors and different ideas, but this is, again, having them all sort of in the same room, like, being able to rapid fire and play off each other and just, exchange different ideas and whatnot. There was a lot of really, really great, awesome, content that came out of there that helped a lot of people. And that was the real cool thing, was, again, that just, again, everyone had the fullness of the vision, like that, 2016 time, where it was like, hey, we're all on the same team. We all want the same thing. Let's all move in a direction together to go get there. So, it's and every time I look back on that, it just reminds me of the opening monologue of that movie Casino by Martin Scorsese, where Joe Pesci is like, it was perfect. It was the perfect operation. Everything was perfect, and then we all fucked it up.
That is a great analogy for it. Because it really is. It's crazy. It's crazy just thinking about it, and like, I don't know. Go ahead, Kevin. You were going to say something.
No, I was going to agree with Josh. And I think, egos aside, everybody in the space still has the same ultimate goal, is to help other men. However, egos get in the way. That happens a lot. It happened a lot with, what happened in the previous group. But it also, too, it shows you how to not get stuck in a one track of total red pill and only seeing that side and not becoming objective, like I feel I've become with the men of now. And that's what we have red pill ideology. However, we're evolving from that. It's not about just following that method and moving on to something that's more beneficial and it will help you be a better man for the world, because it's too easy to get stuck in those slogans. You know, hypergamy, yes, I get it. It's a very real thing. However, if you always have that in the back of your mind, you're never going to be able to fully commit to a woman because you've got that monkey branching. Yes, it's a real thing, but you don't always wait for that. What's the other big one, Josh? She's not yours. It's just your turn. You know, if you still say that to a young man, he's going to have a guard up that doesn't need to be there. Now, you need to be aware of these things, but it's time to move on and make yourself, your man, as a man, the best man you can be. And that's what I think is the most important. And that's what we try to instill in the men of now. It's not just about dating and reading red flags and all that kind of stuff and expecting the worst. We try to make ourselves the best so that way we can receive the best. That's my opinion on the whole thing. And 21 Con started with that same message in mind.
Yes, sir. No, absolutely. I mean, hell, look at this crap right here. I've got an Ampharos for my Pokemon fans out there. I've got the Magic Kingdom from Disney World. I've got the Iron Giant who's holding and playing with people from Winnie the Pooh's little house there. I've got Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, super nerdy. Favorite game of all time. I just built the Jedi Temple, which is across the room. I love this stuff. And that's one of the things that is bizarre is that everybody seems to get like a one-track mind. And if you're only listening to one creator, you're only listening to one coach, you're only focusing on one thing, you're not going to get the well-rounded perspective. Now, that's exactly what this did create. The 21 convention allowed an opportunity for you to taste every flavor within Baskin Robbins and then make the best decision based on all the different flavors. Like, I'll tell you right now, mint chocolate chip, that's my favorite. That's not going to change. But do I love some chocolate chip cookie dough? Yes, I do. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't try the different flavors. So I have my secondary options, my primary options, my alternatives, depending on the situation. And that's really what 21 Convention did. Do you have, Kevin, don't you have another clip of Rollo to see what he looked like when he first spoke?
I do. And this is the first convention that Rollo spoke at. And the Rational Male was gaining traction through blogs, and he'd already published the book, but Rollo was still a faceless man at that point. And I want you to, when you watch this, see how the space helped him. Because if you see him now, the confidence that he, or lack thereof, exudes on stage to where he is now, it shows how important it is to meet with the people that you talk with. Me and Josh have met one of the rock stars from Men of Now in Dallas, and it was great for him because he got to see we're real people. We're not just on a camera or on, at the meetings and stuff like that. And I'm going to share this right now. And like I said, this was Rollo's first big break.
Shift is a principle, or it's a dynamic that has been studied for,
where's his long hair?
Years now. And what it is it's a series of research done mostly by Marty Hasselton. There's a Gangstad. There's a few other really prominent evolutionary psychologists who have done this work for us. But during the high fertility phase, women are more interested in alpha masculine dominance, arrogance, with a confident control. So what we were.
You're telling me that is your king? That is your king?
That is Rollo Tomasi in 2016. And you see the Rollo we know today. The confidence that he had back then was nothing compared to what he has now. And I think that he was able to achieve that by not only speaking at the 21 convention, but meeting other speakers, mingling with the participants that bought the tickets to go, and he evolved from that. And that just shows you that I want to say that, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Rolo was in his late 40s when that happened, when he first
48, I believe.
Somewhere around there. Yeah. And it was, again, the first time a lot of guys like saw him publicly, or actually got like a chance to like meet him in person. So, you know, that was the coolest thing about the whole 21 con, and that 2016 one was the fact that it represented kind of that like shining light of hope, where it's like, hey, you know, everyone can come together. Everyone can, you know, really get a chance to, you know, thank a lot of people that have helped them out in one way or another, but also everyone's super hopeful for, okay, great, we can all come together and focus on a singular vision and a singular goal, and we can all be like one unified team. That's, you know, it's a really, really great thing where it's like, okay, you know, we've been in these different little isolated tribes, right? And then now we've, you know, combined all the tribes to become like one big nation, which is a really, really cool thing. So during that 2016, that particular moment in time, it really did, you know, encapsulate a lot of hope for a lot of people out there that have been, you know, paying attention to different things. And even if, you know, back then you know, the reputation of the space then is drastically different than what it is now, because back then it was still a lot more just about, hey, it's a place to get information to really help, you know, make your life a lot better. And it's definitely geared towards, you know, guys in order to help us, you know, figure out how to navigate life and figure out the different challenges that we uniquely face to ourselves. But that's really what it was, more of the sentiment, and more of the, like, if you heard it from the outside, it was kind of like, oh, okay, cool. They're just like, you know, guys kind of nerding out about, you know, evolutionary psychology a little bit, and a little bit about like, you know, how to make things better. But in reality, you know, that 2016 21 convention, it really, really was a really cool little sort of beacon of hope, where, you know, a lot of guys were like, hey, we all are on the same team, and we all are, you know, moving in one nice unified direction to really try to make everything better. So that was again, another cool little facet about that particular moment in time, which is, you know, like 8 years ago. So
it's crazy.
Quite amazing how much can change in such a very short period of time.
It really is. And you know what? I want to ask you guys a question, because I already have my answer in my head, but I'll go last on it. So, Josh, I'm going to come to you on this first, and then come to you, Kevin. What is your favorite speaker that they had at 21 Con? And or what was the favorite speech that they did? Now, I know that you guys may not have seen a lot of those speeches. I've watched a handful, but not all of them, of course. But who resonated with you the most, and like who really like helped impact your life the most? So, Josh, I'm gonna start with you, and that doesn't have to be a speech that they had, but just the impact on their life and your life's direction.
I mean, it's hard to say, because I'd say like the speaker who's definitely had the biggest impact for sure was CMQ, just because I've followed a lot of his stuff, but then learned a lot from him, wound up meeting him in person, and then becoming friends with him, and then learning a lot more from him in person. So for sure, a lot of impact from him. I'd say as a speaker goes, individually, he's been the most impactful, just because, one, he's helped me out personally before, and then two, just learned a lot from that guy, and especially a lot of like what's possible if you really, you know, commit yourself and have a lot of focus. So he definitely, I'd say, is like, as far as speakers go, would be like the most impactful to me directly. Personally, though, as far as who I thought had the most impactful speech, might have been Ed Lattimore and his very first presentation at 2016 21 convention. It's a very, very, very fantastic talk that he gave. And so I think personally, overall, that one's my absolute favorite that resonates the most.
What did he speak on in that one?
I forget the exact title of what he had, but basically he was detailing a lot of his story and how he came to be, which is, again, his story alone is it's really quite
it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating, because like he dealt with like alcoholism and stuff as well. So I'm
Yep.
sure that was probably a mix of it. And like, no matter how much life kicks you down, you just have to keep fighting, because when you fight enough, you win. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's probably something like that. But yeah, I've spoken to him personally as well. Definitely highly recommend for anybody who does not know who Ed Lattimore is. Definitely look him up. He's got a lot of great speeches and a lot of great content out there. Well, let me move it to you, Kevin. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm one of those. I didn't learn about 21 Con until a few years ago. So obviously, I've never attended one. But if you ever get the chance and watch Rich Cooper's the 25 things your dad didn't teach you, I think at any age that was a very impactful speech that Rich did, along with slides, and I think that would help a lot of young men, even though it was 6-7 years ago. That one is still relevant today, and so for me, that one was the most impactful speech that I saw. As far as the speakers, I can't pick one because I don't have enough knowledge of all the speakers and what all was said at 21 Con. You can see a lot of these clips at 21 Studios. Anthony still got a lot of clips from back in the early days all the way up to modern that you can watch to catch up and see what maybe resonates with you more. But I would say from what little bit of knowledge that I've got from there, that speech that Rich Cooper gave, and I believe it was second year speaking, and I think it was his last year speaking, that really made a difference and made me want to learn more about not only 21 Con, but the space itself.
Dude, I'm dying right now. I just went to go search because I remember Anthony did this thing and he went on I think it was Pierce Morgan, and I was searching on YouTube Anthony Johnson, and the very first search suggestion was Anthony Johnson death. I don't know what that's about, but it's funny. It's funny. My favorite person, yeah, for sure, CMQ. CMQ changed my life. But my favorite speech of all time still is Medusa by Anthony himself. The Medusa speech is just so fascinating to untangle. When we talk about, or at least what I focus on because I do the dating coaching, what I find fascinating is how us as men can get so wrapped up into a relationship or the dream of what could be that we blind ourselves to what is. And that's what the Medusa story shares. There's a lot of heartbreak that occurs in that story. You can tell why he acts the way he does from that story. So I would recommend that anybody just search up Anthony Johnson Medusa or 21 Convention Medusa. You'll find it. It really resonated home with me because as I've shared with you guys before, I did get falsely arrested at one point, and I had to deal with that, and that was super, super annoying. Obviously, nothing came out of it. Everything was fine. And actually, it was funny during this call. I got an email back from her because I had to check in with her about something, and she seems cordial today. So that's literally kind of what it talks about. Medusa, like sucking your soul out, and then once they've taken everything, they leave. So that's definitely an interesting one. That's at least where I stand on that. But there are so many flavors. Like again, as we talk about, it's kind of like Baskin Robbins. They really do. You have anything that you're looking for, and that was very important. And especially putting a face to a name, I think is something that isn't talked about as enough. At least putting a face to a name helps the connections. And we didn't have faces to names for a while. Like even with Rollo had spent years going through So Suave and then writing his book and writing his blog before he finally showed his face. But like once you have a face, then you can kind of compare things a little bit more too. Because one of the things that I always talk about and we've talked about is pick a coach that's right for you. Pick a coach that fits for you. There are certain coaches that are just not going to fit with you. You guys are going to have differing personalities. You're going to have differing worldviews. And if you have a differing worldview where he wants to be like John Anthony lifestyle, fucking over 1,600 girls, and you want to start a family, well, you should probably talk to Zach Small instead of talking to John Anthony lifestyle. I know I'm throwing in multiple Anthonys there, but just to give an example, if you want to live a humble life and you just want to provide for this family and have like 5 kids, maybe don't talk to a CMQ, because CMQ is going to teach you the Playboy lifestyle. And if you don't want to live the Playboy lifestyle and you're out in the ranch, it's just not going to fit. So that's what was so cool about it, is it gave the opportunity to absorb a lot of different information that maybe in some areas you have not heard before. I know that throughout my life, even when it comes, because I always look at it, because I got the Golden Desert Eagle sitting down here next to me. It's not loaded. I don't have the ammo anywhere around, but for whatever reason, I like putting it by my desk. And I never would have thought that I would have become a gun guy or would have understood guns to the level that I do if it wasn't for some of these small introductions through others that I've talked to in the space. I would have never gotten back into Legos if it wasn't for Jack Napier, who was never a speaker at 21 Convention, but is a prominent member of the space and a member of Rule Zero. Like, you just don't know what you don't know. And sometimes when you silo yourself to just one voice or a few voices, you stop growing. And that's what the 21 Convention did. It provided a pathway for men all around the world to keep growing.
And as well as, credit where credit is due, is that, it really assembled a sort of, all-star team that gave a lot of guys, a chance to in person come up and actually look someone that's helped them out in the eye and thank them for the help that they were able to receive or impart on them. So, which is, an opportunity that, they would never have had anywhere else. So that's also a really cool thing that was done and came out of it, was the, ability for, a lot of guys to come out and, meet these guys that have given so many impactful ideas that have helped them out, and just, shake their hand and just say, hey, thank you so much, because you helped me through like my divorce, or you helped me figure out this, or, gave me a new perspective on things that's making me do so much better. So that was a really, really cool thing to be able to provide that sort of format to really, really help, a lot of guys on that more personal level, just be able to express the thanks. So that was a cool thing that happened.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting near time. Kevin, I want to grab your final thoughts, and then I'll let everybody know what's kind of going on next when we do round 2.
Yeah, kind of like what Josh said. Anthony was able to pull a bunch of leaders in the space and bring them.
No, hold on. All right, let's be realistic here. He was able to pull a bunch of shit out of his ass because he had no experience doing this. He had no money. He was brand new, like around 18 years old. He pulled a bunch of shit out of his ass, and it worked. Give the guy credit.
It did, and it helped a lot of people, and I think it still does. And it's unfortunate how things turn out, but nobody stays on top forever. But having people with vision like that, and going back to what Josh said, having a collective where you're not just getting one message shoved down your throat, you can become more well-rounded. And then the opportunity to shake that person's hand that maybe helped you through a tough time and see that they're a real person and connect with them on a friendly level, not just a professional level. It really makes that experience special. And that's what 21 Con was able to do for several years, for several hundred guys, maybe even thousands, those that attended and those that still see the clips. So I think that what I've gathered from that, because I've done a lot of research, so to speak, and I've found what works for me. Maybe it comes with my age a little bit, to not just get sucked into one person's ideology in the space, but to learn a little bit from all of them, so I can become my own man. And that's what's really special about the men of now, is we're not just one person. You know, we have a collective of guys that specialize in certain things that can help a wide variety of men of all walks of life. And that's what things like 21 Con, all the speakers create, by putting themselves out there and having the willingness to help. And that's what I think it's all about. And it's unfortunate, you know, Josh, you put it mildly, that fracture and splinter, it can implode. And that's what happened, because some people weren't willing to be objective to certain things. And if you're not willing to be objective, yeah, it's going to run its course. And unfortunately for 21 Con and Johnson himself, that's what's happened.
Yeah, good thought. Yeah, it really is. It's bringing community to online community is it's something different, because otherwise, yeah, you can just stay behind your keyboard. You can stay in this YouTube realm where you're just watching stuff constantly, but there's nothing. I'll never forget, and I'm probably going to play the intro video on the way out here, because we do got to wrap, because I have to go see how nonsensical this VP debate becomes. Yay, America! But that Miami trip that I did with a previous men's group that I had, first class, seeing everybody in person after spending so much time interacting with them online, and even if you don't think you're interacting, even just viewing the videos, you develop some type of personal attachment to this person who is speaking to an audience, but you feel like they're speaking to you. Being able to actually meet these people, and then being able to meet people that have the same vision and goal in life as you do, which is just what it comes down to, is really just success and it's happiness. Whether somebody wants to do it by being a PUA and sleeping with a bunch of girls, whether it be somebody who wants to start a family, whether it be with somebody who wants to get incredibly wealthy, whether it becomes somebody who wants to get a bunch of supercars and then sleep with models and then gloat that it's not because they're 6'7" and have a lot of money and dress well. I'm not pointing fingers, but shout out to you, Josh, living the dream.
If you said
But,
5'7", you could have been talking about me, but no, it's I think we all knew who the point of that phrase was.
yeah, no, I'm just like making jokes on it, because we all come from so many different walks of life. I mean, here I am out in Philly. You're down in North Carolina. Josh is out in LA. We all live very different lives. You come from a military background. I do not. I come from an IT and finance background. Like, there's a lot of different things in trading notes that just, it's almost like the evolution. Like, once you all come together, it's an evolution. And we didn't really have that. It was all like Reddit forums until the point that 21 Convention began. And then from 21 Convention, it empowered others. Now we have the Fresh and Fit podcast. We have the Whatever podcast. We have all of these other podcasts that have popped up as well, all because men got a little bit more knowledge and then the confidence to push it forward. And you even look at Rollo. Rollo looks years younger now. It's like wild to think about. Like, he looks like the old man psychologist or something coming in to like talk about shit. And then now he looks like a rock star, and he's doing the Access Vegas stuff with Michael Sartain out in Las Vegas. It's like crazy, because we bring life to each other. You know, it's all energy exchanges. But if you're not putting out your energy in the right way, you're not going to get good energy back. Instead, it's just slowly dissipating, kind of like a flame running out of oil in the old days. I think that's kind of a good way to put it.
Yeah, my final thought on it is, again, especially that 2016 21 Con really showcased what can happen, and as far as people coming together and really focusing on the singular vision, singular focus, and realizing that we're all on the same team, all want to move in the same direction. So that does inspire hope that even though as fragmented as things are, or maybe right now we maybe have little fractions and warring tribes, we can get there again, because for a brief moment in time, 8 years ago, everybody came together and was ready for it. So I think we're very hopeful that we can get to it, but also when we discuss on the next episode, we're going to see exactly how things sort of started to fracture and fragment. And so it's a very, very good case study as a cautionary tale for proceeding forward, which is, if we do get to another point where, where everyone's being unified again, here's what to look out for, and that could potentially fragment and fracture everything. So yeah, there's two sides to the coin, and this was a cool side to see that we covered today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna leave you guys with this when it comes to all that. Ego will destroy you. So when you bring a bunch of people who are self-starters and entrepreneurs and they're successful, and then they butt heads because they disagree about certain things, and then there's no way to manage that disagreement, that's what blows things up. And that is exactly what happened. Everything got splintered, and I've been kind of tongue in cheek on certain things because I know a lot of personal details that aren't necessarily public about this. And so I got to pick my words wisely. But we're going to talk next time on how everything splintered, how everything broke, and how we ended up where we are today. But until next time, you've got your three big brothers here out to help you.
All right.
Strong and wild, we rise up high. Conquer fears, won't let them reside. Heartbeats pound as we take